Webheads, comic book fans, welcome to another episode of After the Poll. Fans, I'm Mike Spider Slayer. This is Comic Book Corner 2.0, and this is the video series where each and every week I take some of my most highly anticipated comics and see if they live up to the hype. Now, will these books stay as my top 5? We don't know. We have to find out on my live stream on Tuesday nights, 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time, called Comic Book Weekly, where I team up with my good friends Kat Comic Uno and Brant Fowler as we talk about all of the week's big books and top 5. So be there Tuesday nights, 10:15 p.m. Eastern. Okay, guys, just a quick note that I feel that it's important for you guys to know. Last week, I did shoot an episode of After the Poll. At the spur of the moment, I decided for it to be a live stream. I thought it would be something different. Well, of course, YouTube had a glitch after I did my live stream. And once it posted to YouTube, there was this glitch saying that I was a spammer, and they put my video on private and I couldn't appeal the process. So it was like that for a few days, and a lot of you were asking me, where's this week's episode of After the Poll? That's what happened. After a couple days, YouTube fixed the glitch, and now it's back on in case you want to watch it. But I apologize for the inconvenience there. Definitely out of my hands, and I just wanted to throw that out there. But I did make an announcement on that video that maybe you guys did not catch, and that announcement is that starting next week, After the Poll will not be around during the summer months of June and July. Next week, I am starting my tennis summer camp that I do during the day, and I just don't have as much time to read as many comics so quickly like I normally would at the beginning of the comic book week. Now, if I can throw an episode up here and there, I will do that, but it will not be posted on Thursdays, and it might not be posted at all throughout the week. I hate skipping the series because I love bringing the series to you. It's so much fun, but it will return in full swing probably around the first week of August or so. So I just thought I share that with you guys. So now let's get started with this week's episode of After the Poll. So right away, we are kicking off this week's episode with my top 5. That's right, guys. Coming in at number 5 goes to The Amazing Spider-Man issue 2. Now, is this going to stay at number 5? Probably not. I still have 13 other books to read, and this book was very deceiving based off of the cover. I mean, this is the true definition of never judge a book by its cover, because in this book, based off of the cover, you are hoping to see the fallout between Mary Jane and Peter Parker. Do you get that in this comic book? No. It's like clickbait on YouTube, man. You don't get that on here at all. And by the time you get done reading it, you're very frustrated about that, right? Now, I'm a little bit scared when it comes to that Judgment Day type of book that's coming out, when it comes to the summer event with Gwen Stacy and Peter on it. Is Gwen Stacy going to actually be in the comic book? Maybe, but I think it might be a flashback. But let's go back to issue 2 here. So what do you get out of this book if you don't get Mary Jane and Peter Parker? Well, this is a very Tombstone-centric issue, right? Let's talk about the artwork as well. So here we get the artwork. You can expect what you can expect when it comes to John Romita Jr. That's it. Get some wonky facial expressions. You have funny looking kids' heads, sometimes they're oversized, skinny necks, But when it comes to Spider-Man, I think Spider-Man in this issue was drawn the best. And when you read the book, it does have this very classic street level feel to it. Reminds you of old school Spider-Man, and that's what I appreciate out of the book. Now, the reason why I'm mad at this book is because it had nothing to do with the fallout between Peter Parker and Mary Jane. Does it make it a bad issue? No. But it should have had Tombstone on the cover or something, like how issue 3 has it, right? So what this comic book is about is we wound up seeing basically Tombstone has gone soft. After the whole explosion that has happened in his mansion, he's making it a mission to go in this gang war and destroy the Rose. That's basically what this issue is about. Spider-Man confronts Tombstone in this issue because obviously he gets the message from Peter Parker from the first issue, and they start doing this fight. Tombstone leads him into this van, okay, after Tombstone captured Crime Master, and they start doing battle against each other, which was a cool little scene. You get to see this battle, and I love the narration in here between Spider-Man, and the van has these closing walls, and it's about to destroy Spider-Man, and they take him into his secret safe house or warehouse or whatever it is. So that was really the issue. It was a Tombstone-centric issue about him, you know, at first being a better father towards his daughter. You know, he fixed his teeth and stuff like that, and he said, that's it, I've gone soft, I gotta go back to the ugly side of myself. He shaved down his teeth again and stuff like that. So that stuff was cool. You get a little scene in the beginning of this book with Norman Osborn and Peter, which was kind of funny because Norman is offering him a job, and you're kind of like, oh, he's going to offer him a real cool job, and it's just babysitting the kids. So I thought that was kind of funny. So the book itself was a pretty good story. It was just misleading for me, right? And that's what kind of pissed me off about it. Nevertheless, I'm always going to read Spider-Man, and I'm going to be curious to see what happens to Spider-Man in the next issue and Tombstone. Coming in at number 4, this one goes to Gunslinger Spawn. You guys know how I feel about Gunslinger Spawn at this point. He is my favorite Spawn character, one of my favorite characters created recently, right? I think this character has strong potential, and I'm going to do a video about Gunslinger Spawn hopefully this weekend, okay? Brett Booth's artwork is absolutely awesome in this book. Here we get to see a little action scene that happened based off of the last issue. I thought Jessica Priest looked absolutely gorgeous in this book. Here we get to see them just, you know, kind of lying in the grass, reminiscing what happened the day before, and them just talking with each other. Here's a nice looking page again with Jessica, and then here's one with Gunslinger on there himself, and his name is Javier. So what was this issue about? Well, basically it was about these two meeting each other kind of for the first time as Gunslinger is searching for help to get him back to his timeline. That's the whole thing of this comic book. And this takes place before the Scorched, when these two meet, and he's looking for the help of Spawn. And Jessica is trying to get a team together, and it is the Scorched team, which I thought was really neat how you get to see the origin of that whole thing that is happening. In the meantime, you also get to see this flashback that happened just prior, based off of the last issue of Spawn confronting somebody in his past. And that was really cool action scenes. That was basically the whole entire issue. But I do like how Jessica Priest is in this book, as well as she is a character that does not take shit from nobody. She doesn't need protecting, and it fleshed out her character as well. So this was a very interesting book. I don't want to say that a lot happened in this issue. It was kind of a stall a little bit. It was kind of cool to see what happened, the flashback there. But I appreciate them giving you the insight of kind of how this team, this Scorched team, was formed. So always recommend, I was going to say Scorched, always recommend Gunslinger for great writing, wonderful artwork, and if you love action, this is the book that normally has it. So guys, pick up Gunslinger, and you can't beat that price, $3. Moving on up to the third spot now, we have Hulk issue 7, Banner of War, Part 3. This book, holy shit, dude, this book has got so much action in it. It explodes off the pages. I mean, every page, you're like this little kid when you were reading comics, you're like, oh my god. Oh my god, like you have to flip backwards and forwards and to see all the action that goes on. There's big gigantic mechs in here because of, you know, Tony Stark's Sentinel armor. I mean, it's just insane. Or Celestial armor, I should say. It's just so much action. Big explosives. Crazy colors. I mean, it's, again, insane. I'm kind of speechless of how much action this book has in it. So what did this story have to offer? Well, that's what it was. It was a big battle between Tony Stark, who creates this celestial armor, right, that's doing battle against a raging Hulk. And he gets angrier and angrier and angrier. And Thor is trying to stop him. Actually, Odin's son is trying to stop him because he's within Mjolnir, and he's trying to get Banner to calm down. He's trying to get Tony Stark to not keep on trying to destroy the Hulk, or he's trying to get the Gamma taken away from him, but it just, everything fails. Okay, and then what happens is Hulk gets so raging that he basically releases a gamma bomb that's so large that basically decimates a planet. And I think the amount of gamma was 3,000 gamma bombs when the Hulk actually exploded. And what do you get when you have a Hulk that explodes? Well, basically everyone around him gets killed or irradiated from gamma, except Tony, because he's wearing a suit that protects him. But you wind up getting a Thor Hulk. And that's what you get at the end of this issue. Now, what happened to Hulk himself? Did he die? Or did he fuse with Thor based off of the explosion? Or did the radiation just go to Thor and now he becomes a Thor Hulk? So that made it very interesting. And does it change the persona of Thor as well? Because if he's part of Banner, right, does that make him like all those different personalities inside? Does it make him the Titan Thor Hulk? Like, there's so many questions I have here, but the concept is pretty neat as you're combining the characters together, and that would make for an unstoppable force. Think about it, a god-like Hulk. That is a pretty strong being on Earth 616. Great comic, lots of action. Definitely recommend it. Coming in at number 2, we have Something is Killing the Children, issue 23. This book was so good because we have Erica Slaughter starring in her own book. I felt like in the last 2 issues, she kind of made cameo appearances, but here she was front and center, and I really appreciated that. I love the artwork in this book. We get to see some cool facial expressions in this issue because she's not wearing the bandana, she's not wearing the fangs, and sometimes character emotions really what sell the character, right? So I like this issue, this part of the issue as well. So I loved how you get to see the big green eyes, the big smile or a facial expression that she has on there. I loved it. And this is overall a great book. This story had some meat because based off of what happened in the previous issues, there was a murder that happened. Okay, this young girl's grandparents and parents got murdered by some creature, and her name is Gabby. And of course, Erica Slaughter goes to the scene to find out what's happening. But what happens is she drops her totem's left behind. The sheriff brings her in for questioning, and she's kind of getting grilled a little bit. She's posing as a reporter, and she tells the sheriff, hey, I can help you with these murders, trust me. And the sheriff is like, well, you're not going to screw me over, right? And she's like, yeah, no problem, because she truly wants to get behind this. And this monster is a different type of monster. It looks like a human, it has an eyeball popping out of its shoulder, looks pretty badass. And in the beginning of this issue, you got to see Erica Slaughter talk to her old mentor. I think his name was, what was it, Big Gary or something like that. That was the guy that saw if Erica Slaughter was actually worthy of her being part of the House of St. George, right? So that part of the story was really interesting. Then you got introduced to the Miss Cutter person who is part of the Cutter House, where the House of St. George has put a hit on Erica Slaughter because they feel she's no longer worthy. And you got to see just a little bit of how brutal this Miss Cutter person actually is as she murdered somebody in the bathroom, which is actually hilarious. So I thought this was a well-written book, and what's to come from this story, man, I have no idea, but I think things are going to really heat up. If you haven't jumped on the second story arc of Something is Killing the Children, hopefully you still can. You buy issue 21, 22, and 23, and then you're caught up with the second story arc, and then go buy that first hardcover if you haven't read it at all. So good. Love this issue. Coming in at number 1, this goes to Jason Aaron's Punisher issue 3. Now, whatever side of the fence you are on when it comes to the Punisher, I totally respect that. We're not always going to agree on certain things, but I'm really digging this series. I think it's quite excellent, and it shows that Frank Castle didn't just suffer from the loss of his wife and kids. He suffered some very traumatic stuff in the beginning, in his early childhood when he was 10 years old. In this issue, you get to witness that. You get to see a very dramatic thing for a 10-year-old to see, and he acted upon it, okay? And it was a tough situation for him, and he basically witnessed the beating of 2 people, and it stuck in his mind, and he had visions and he had screaming all in his mind, and he couldn't make it stop. So what he had to do was, he felt like he had to take matters in his own hands and murder that person in hopes for the screaming to stop. He tried to talk to his parents about it, and they said just forget about it, and he couldn't forget about it. So this was a situation that Frank Castle experienced when he was really young, that he couldn't just brush it off. And this shows you how different situations affect different people, and when you feel that maybe someone is okay, they're not okay. And this kind of affected him. And so we don't know what else has affected him leading up to the point of his wife and his kids being murdered as well. So I thought that story was really interesting. We also get to see the other part of the story where the priestess has Frank Castle kind of interrogate a Hydra agent, trying to find out who their leader is, where they got their weapons. So I thought that was awesome. Then we get another part of this book where we see Frank's wife, Maria, just losing her shit, and she can't remember where her kids are. She's like, we left the park, but we left the kids there. So at the end of this book, they got to do something about the kids now. And let's just say that it looks like there's going to be more people resurrected. I don't know, man. Things are going to really hit the fan here, I think, as this story goes along. But I think Jason Aaron had something really special when it comes to the Punisher. Whether you agree or disagree, like I said, I totally respect it. But for me, I say pick up this book, guys. So there you have it, webheads. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's episode of After the Pool. Curious to hear your thoughts on these books and some of the other books that you have read as well. And of course, guys, if you love the content, find out everything I picked up this comic book week on my comic book haul. I'll leave it right here for you to click on. And of course, guys, keep buying, keep collecting, but most importantly, always read your comics. Guys, thank you so much. I'll see you real soon. Bye.